Rise. I don't think anyone's going to be making a movie of today's clash at the Al Bayt Stadium. Liam, what did you take away from this encounter?
It was interesting. I was very much viewing it with, I think, more of an England hat on, and I think a lot of people had put a lot of stock into England putting six past Iran, which was a good display, but very clinical, and I think a very different test. They were very high possession again today, and I think that helped the US really against Wales, who sat off them a lot more. England turned the ball over a lot, tried to be more attacking, and they just lost possession more, so it gave the US more chance to transition. Thought Pulisic in particular got a lot of chances to drive at the ball, definitely their sort of biggest attacking threat today. But overall, I think both sides had enough to have opportunities, but not really create too many clear-cut chances.
The draw's not bad for England. It just means that they need a point now against Wales on the final group game to be assured of qualification. I guess there are two ways of reading this performance. It was either England just playing for the draw that they needed, or England, after a terrific result against Iran, suddenly falling back into the dark, dismal ways of the summer, being that Ferrari driven at 15 miles an hour. Which do you think it was, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, a bit of both, I suppose. I mean, in the context of the tournament, it's not a bad result at all. The US are dangerous opponents who played very well. I think the fact that England wanted to play through them probably suited the US better than Wales had, because Wales initially sat off them and then just went very direct. And I think that US midfield is principally set up to shut down teams that want to play football, which is what England were tentatively trying to do. But that said, England is still top of the group. A draw against Wales, which is sadly well within their powers, takes them into the next round. And if we go back to last summer, Euro 2020, England's second game was a 0-0 draw against Scotland, after which they got booed off, and the papers were full of doom and gloom about how poorly they played and how well Scotland had done, and we all know how that tournament worked out. That said, after all the sort of euphoria is probably too strong a word, but after all the positivity after the Iran game, that was a kind of bringing things back down to earth. It wasn't a particularly impressive England performance. They just seemed to lack an attacking spark completely. Harry Kane was practically invisible. I wondered whether he was worrying a bit about his ankle, because he didn't seem to be on it in quite the same way he had been in that game against Iran. And the players who performed so well against Iran, Jude Bellingham, Bukayo Saka, Raheem Sterling, all very anonymous. Gareth Southgate leaves it late to make changes. So yeah, not a particularly encouraging performance, but in the context of the tournament, nothing to really worry about, I don't think.
All right. Well, let's get a US take on the match at the Al Bayt Stadium, because there, sitting actually waiting for us in the press box, is Paul Tenorio of The Athletic. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, this game here was about, I guess, two things. One was points for qualifying, and the other was respect.
Yeah, I mean, I thought for sure the respect part was there. The way the U.S. dominated the game for the majority of the game. After the first 15 minutes or so, the U.S. was the better team. And there were some stretches late there where certainly I think the U.S. slowed, had a grip and a chance to win it with Harry Kane. But I thought the way they asserted themselves in the game, the way they played, the way they attacked, it was really, really positive if you're a U.S. fan, and very disappointing not to get a result, because now you've got to go into the group finale against probably a very optimistic, high-flying, competent Iran team needing a win.
Although Iran weren't quite so impressive in their opening game, so we'll see how they are in that game next Tuesday. Equally, USA, who'd faded so dramatically in the second half of their clash with Wales, in this second half, as you say, looked much the better side. What was the difference for you?
Well, I thought just they played more confidently. They had a better game plan. I went back and rewatched the second half against Wales, and they had moments in transition where they just weren't connecting those final passes. They were better at that today, but the same problem against Wales as against England. They have these chances and they don't put them away. One goal against Wales and a draw, no goals against England and a draw. And I think both times you feel like at the end of the day, you've left 4 points on the table if you're the U.S.
Paul, there was a lot of talk before this game about the progress of the United States with the target not just of the last 16, but also the tournament coming up in 3.5 years' time, which USA and Canada will be joint hosting. How much progress are you seeing from the team in that direction?
Well, it's a very young team, and so there's been a lot of progress made for this group, second youngest group at this World Cup. And I think when you see the players that are being sold out of MLS, when you see the level that these players are playing at now in Europe, it's clear that there's a lot of progress being made. And this group has a huge responsibility on its shoulders to show well here for sure, and then to build on that at home at a World Cup where maybe for the first time ever you can start talking about how far can this U.S. team go. Usually it's how do you get through the group stage and see what happens. With a group like this, you start saying, oh, how far can you go at home? So, I think this first World Cup here for these players is a measuring stick, a chance to learn, a chance to gain experience, and to try to gain some positives here. And then you take that and you hope you build on it in 4 years' time.
Okay, well, with any luck in 2026, you'll draw England in the group again because England never beat you at a World Cup.
That's true. As much as they love to see the U.S. in the group, they never find a way to get 3 points out of them, do they?
Hello there. If you've enjoyed this video, why not subscribe to this channel? And if you'd like more Totally Football Show content, then just search for us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Not an Athletic subscriber yet? Then just head to theathletic.com/totally to find out our latest entry offer.